What's the best thing to do on a cloudy day? I think it might be to make some age tape. I'm Ingrid Carlson, and I am so glad that you are here with me today. Today's video is going to be a fun one. We are going to be making some age tape, and then I'm going to show you 15 ways that you can use it in your next journal. We've been talking about having printables and making them look worn and weathered and allowing them to tell a story of days past. And so this is an extension of that. If this is your first time finding my channel, I really hope that you would want to join the Caratuti family by subscribing. And if you do, make sure that you hit that bell notification so you get notified anytime a new video of mine comes out, like this one. And if you have been with me for a little while or a long while, welcome back. I'm so happy that you're here. I'm actually sitting in my car waiting for my daughter to have a tennis match, and I lost track of time today. Well, truth be told, it was raining. It's been raining all day, and so I was under the assumption that we probably wouldn't have tennis, but it seems like every time I do that, we end up having tennis. So here we are, and while I'm waiting for her, I thought I'd work on this voiceover with you. So thanks for waiting with me. I'm going to let you in on a little secret. I was petrified of alcohol inks. I didn't understand them. They scared me, and maybe they still do a little bit. I will say a big disclaimer here. If you are worried about working with alcohol inks, or maybe you have never worked with them before and this video inspires you to take them out, which I hope it does, because they are really wonderful and it's an awesome medium to try your hand at. I will say that you want to take a few precautions. So if you've been on my channel for any amount of time, you know that I am not a stickler for a bunch of rules, and I am not that bothered with getting a little paint on my hands. But in this case, I would highly suggest that you work in a high ventilated area and also wear gloves. You don't have to, but I definitely think that you'll have a better experience for it. And I'll be honest, when I first started, I actually got one of those ventilator respirator things to maybe for, I don't know, construction stuff. I don't really use it that much, but I have them just in case. I tend to have issues when it comes to chemical smells, but today and recently they haven't been bothering me, but I wanted to get that out of the way. So we are going to take some Dollar Tree parchment paper, and you're going to see here that it is buckling as I put my Scotch tape on top of it. And also, can we take a moment to talk about the Scotch tape and how it's broken? It's the only one that I could find. I feel like I buy Scotch tape every time I go to the store almost, and I can never find it. Is that something that you struggle with, or is it just me? It disappears like pins at our house. Anyways, you're going to see that it is buckling when I'm adding the tape in layers, but it's not going to matter at all once we start putting our alcohol inks on top of them. I think it actually adds a little bit of texture because the paper isn't completely flat, and I think that it comes out really beautiful in the end. So like I said, what we're going to start off by doing is layering our tape, and you can go long ways, you can go short ways, you can add more than I did here, you can add less. Really, it's up to you. There is no rule here. You just want to lay your tape on a surface that you're going to be able to peel off. And what I have found is this pre-cut parchment tape or parchment paper from Dollar Tree is wonderful. It works really well, and the tape doesn't stick hardly at all. I'm going to start off by adding just a little tiny bit of alcohol to my first strip of tape. And I wanted to do an experiment here to see if the alcohol would allow the ink to glide more smoothly. But what I found here is that it really didn't make a difference. So personally, I would skip this step. Also, I wanted to tell you that the tape I'm using is a Scotch tape or a shiny tape. It's not the invisible tape. I don't know if it makes a difference, but I found that this was really easy to work with today. I'm going to start off by using caramel in the Tim Holtz, or I think it's the Ranger line. And I'm going to do 2 of each color, except for the end. I end up falling in love with the color latte, and I actually did 3 of those. When I've done this technique in the past, I've used a sponge, but what I find is that the sponge tends to soak up the alcohol a little too much, and I really like using a latex or vinyl type of glove. And you're going to see that I'm not using the tip of my finger, but instead I'm using the pad of my finger. I'm also not going to push down very hard. I'm gliding my finger gently across the tape so that it moves the ink along. I kind of look at this as a maybe foundation application. So it's definitely layerable and you can build up the coverage if you need to. And you're going to see, depending on how hard you press, is going to be how much of the product you're wiping from one area to the next. So if you want it to be more concentrated, make sure to use a very light touch. And this really is where the magic begins. It's where we are taking something that is as plain and simple as some Scotch tape, and we are breathing new life into it. This tape now is going to tell a story. It's going to allow us to reminisce about olden days and enjoy it on a completely different level. The next color I'm going to pull out is called Dijon, and I absolutely love the yellow tone it gives. It's actually one of my favorite colors in my collection. This next is one that I got on Amazon, and I have it linked in my Amazon storefront, but it reacted a little differently to the tape than the Tim Holtz ones, and I've never really had it do this before, but it definitely rippled and separated in a different way. But I want to encourage you, if you are using an alcohol ink that does this, don't worry about it. First of all, I think that it gives the tape a more grungy, like unique feel, and you can always go over it with more colors. You're going to be able to see here what I'm talking about with this brown color. It's almost like it was resisting the tape, which is really odd. The other colors covered so beautifully, but not to worry, we're actually later going to mix some of the other color in here and it's still beautiful. Okay, so here is my sales pitch. If you only want to buy one color, this is the color I would recommend. This latte, it is stunning. It's the perfect vintage tape color. You can see it right here. It spread maybe better than the others, which I don't know how. Maybe different formulas for the colors. I'm not sure, but it is absolutely beautiful. And you're going to see as I'm working, I just couldn't help myself, but I kept grabbing more of that. And I kept telling myself, no, try the other colors. And I'd accidentally, maybe Freudian slip, I'd go back to the latte. This little gentle chaos part is so much fun to do, and I can't help but be anxious and excited about what we are going to create with these beautiful tapes. I could watch this all day. It spreads in such a beautiful, unpredictable way, and each piece is just a little different. I love that. I don't know if you guys can hear that or not, but there's a little baby crying about 2 cars away. And I can relate right now, baby, because we lost, and that's always a bummer. But on top of that, I get to look at these tapes right now, and it completely lifts my mood. I am so excited with the results of these tapes. And now I have the $1 million question for you. Which is your favorite color? Did you know that you can make an envelope using a square sheet of paper? Any kind of square will work. I am going to cut down this really pretty pattern paper that I had from one of my paper pads that has these really pretty black bows on it, and I'm going to cut it down to 4 by 4 inches. And then you're going to see that I'm not going to measure anything, I'm not going to mark anything, I'm just going to use my hands to kind of fold the paper to make an envelope. And this is my favorite type of crafting, one that doesn't use a ton of measurements or isn't so finicky about being perfect. I love this little handmade envelope. I think that it is just precious. And when we seal it with the tape, it's definitely like the cherry on top. It just finishes it off, and you can see I'm not adding any other embellishments. I'm not adding any ephemera, anything, and you're going to see how just a little piece of age tape just takes this to the next level. Since I'm working with the tape right after I made it, just in case it was still tacky in any way, shape, or form, even though it should dry pretty soon, I am going to go ahead and use some tweezers. And that's because I just had my nails done, and since they're French, they are not that forgiving to smudges. So I'm going to kind of struggle with this a little bit through the video. I'm not used to using tweezers at all. And so I'm going to go ahead and apologize in advance for all the fumbling that I do using the tweezers. But wait until you see how adorable this little piece of tape is on this envelope. It's something so simple yet so sweet. And isn't it so adorable? It looks like it's just waiting for a little love note to get tucked inside. Our second way to use our age tape is to anchor or attach ephemera. So in this case, I'm going to reinforce it with a stapler, but you're going to see you don't have to. You can definitely do this with just the tape. Another thing you can do is if you're worried about the longevity of the stay, you can always add some extra glue underneath the tape to make sure that it bonds really well. Okay, and I'm gonna pull my Texas y'all out here, but Y'all, how cute is this little kitten ephemera? It is so sweet that I had to make it in blue and pink. It just really stole my heart. It's so adorable. Whenever I'm doing a little bit of storytelling, I love to add some type of lace or fabric, trim. It just adds to the story. It's like a little memento that was placed in between the layers of a cluster that tells something about the person that was creating this. And I think the part that I like the most about it is that you only have to use a little bit. You can literally use the tiniest piece and it still is so endearing. And there you go. You have a cluster that we made in just a couple of minutes. But I'm going to show you now. I'm going to add just a little strip of the age tape on the corner, and it really does pull everything together. It makes this now look like it's a little bundle that was hiding for 100 years in a drawer and that we just discovered by accident. I'm going to add a staple to make sure that it stays together, and then I'm going to paper clip it onto this page. It's such a beautiful piece to have in your journal. This really works great whether you have a real repair to make or if you want to fake it a little bit. So I'm going to take a printable here, and I love this printable. It's so pretty. But I'm going to cut the edge. Actually, I'm going to tear it, and then I'm going to cut just a little sliver off of the middle so that you can kind of see a little bit of light peeking through. And then I'm going to take the rest of the piece and age it so that it really looks genuine, like it's been through something. It definitely is telling a big story here. And I think that with the more distressing, it really adds to what you're trying to convey here. And then I'm going to take a piece of the tape and lay it over top, and it really does look so genuine, like it was completely torn and then sealed with tape to try to keep it together. I absolutely adore this process, and I think it's definitely one of my favorites from today's video. I've spoken before about my love of flip outs, and it was actually the very first thing that drew me into junk journaling. I saw people doing it and I didn't know what's a flip in, what's a flip out, flip up, flip. What is it? And I remember looking through YouTube trying to figure out what it was. I could not get any answers. And then I think I finally found a video that kind of explained it. And pretty much all it is you're taking a piece. It can be an ephemera piece, it can be a piece of paper, it could be anything that you want to add to your page to make it interactive. And so the way we're going to do that is we're going to lay it down, and then you can choose if you want to anchor it on either the sides or the top of the bottom. And in this case, I'm going to add some tape up to the top, and I'm going to anchor my piece like that. And then to make sure that it is completely adhered, then I'm going to take another piece of tape on the other side and anchor it down. And my general rule of thumb is that you want to make the two pieces of tape roughly about the same size so that there's no sticky on either side. And seriously, look at how beautiful this is. It is just a piece of ephemera that is attached to pattern paper, and it looks like a piece of art. Speaking of flip outs and loves, my other thing that I absolutely love, love, love to add to my journals is tabs. And this is a fun way to add a tab to your page and also give it a little more zhuzh, a little more character by adding some age tape to it. This one is really easy. You're just going to cut a piece of paper or whatever you want to use here. It could be fabric, and you're just going to fold it in half and then attach it to your page. And the extra piece of age tape just is so adorable here. You can have fun, embellish this even more than it already is, but this is definitely a must try. Adding scraps is actually a really great stash buster project because you really could use any kind of scrap that's sitting on your desk, or like I said, fabric or lace. There's so many different options here, and I think that it just elevates your journal. It gives it an interactive quality that I think is so beautiful. As I'm doing the voiceover here, I really am realizing how much I truly love junk journaling. And I keep saying every time I'm showing a different process, like, oh, well, this one's one of my favorites. But truly, if you know me, I love labels. I think that labels are I don't know. I guess if the cherry is the last little piece, the label then would be maybe the whipped cream. And what is a sundae without some whipped cream? So here I am going to show you that just taking two pieces, I'm going to take one of these beautiful journaling cards. I'm going to use a piece of ephemera that I've had for, oh boy, I don't even know how long. And I'm going to just attach them using the age tape. And just like that flip out page, without doing very much work at all, I'm going to get a beautiful, beautiful piece to stick in my journal. If you are rushed on time, but you want to add something to your journal that makes it look like you had more time, this is the process to do. You're going to see how fast this is. I'm just going to add a piece of the age tape on the edge of this page, and you're going to see that when I fold it over, it gets crinkled and it actually crinkles my paper, but it's okay. I left it this way. You know, you could, if you didn't like that, you could just like cut it a slit and it would smooth it out so that it would not buckle. But I think that the end result is so beautiful. And imagine flipping through a journal and just seeing that age tape on the edge. So beautiful. And the paper that I chose here is a lined school paper. So I think that it coordinated so beautifully because it really brought me back to being in school and using tape. And I just love that. The next process we're going to talk about is taking some old washi. And if you're anything like me, especially if you come from a background of either planning or scrapbooking, then you might have the same thing as I do, and that is a drawer or cabinet or something full of washi. And I hate to say some of that washi might be a little dated. You can totally see that it's really cute. It's a blue washi with some gold envelopes on it, but it's definitely very 2016 maybe. That's probably when I got it. And so I'm going to take this washi instead of getting rid of it when maybe it's something that wouldn't be aesthetically cohesive to a journal that I'm making today. What I'm going to do is I'm going to add some of that aged tape on top, and it completely makes it look vintage and worn, and now I can use that washi throughout my journal. I think this one is definitely a game changer. And you can see here the tape that we started with. It was an adorable tape, but look at how much character we've given it. I love the idea of this process, and that is to add your tape onto book page to make it look worn. And you can also combine some of these. So you can do one of the first processes that we showed where we had a faux rip and then we covered it. A book page would be a great place to do that as well. But another thing you can do is if you wanted to highlight specific words in a book or phrases, or maybe it's a photo in a book, this is a really beautiful way to do that. It is almost acting like a highlighter, but a vintage yummy highlighter. And of course, the best part is that this literally takes no time at all. And now you have a beautiful piece to work with. Did you guys happen to catch my last Dollar Tree video and I showed a surprise Happy Mail that my friend Mari had given me? Well, in the Happy Mail, she was so sweet and she had done some vintage tape like this and then she'd stamped it, and she did tell me that she used some stazon to stamp it. And so I'm taking inspiration from that beautiful package, and we are going to make our own DIY washi tape. So we're going to take our age tape, and then you're going to want to use an ink that doesn't smudge. And in this case, I'm going to use some stazon. You know, this is that, it kind of smells like a Sharpie. I only reach for it when I have to, but this is the perfect place to use it. And I'm going to take these little alpha stamps. They're so cute. They're little sticks with the rubber stamp at the bottom. And you're going to see accidentally, I put one of the letters upside down, maybe two of the letters upside down. I don't know, but it really adds to the lightheartedness of this little craft, and I think that it gives it even more character. And again, just like I've said in some of the other projects, just adding a little bit of washi tape with a lovely sentiment. And yeah, you can see the L is upside down. But look at how sweet now this little wallpaper background is, just adding this. If your page is missing something, you don't know what it is, maybe there's too much white in the background, maybe you don't like your handwriting. I've heard that a lot, of when you just don't feel like it looks right. Well, I have the solution for you today, and I'm going to tell you, just add some of this vintage tape on top of your handwriting. It makes it romantic instantly. It takes the maybe not smoothness of writing and it completely deters it, and instead it makes it ethereal and lovely. And I think that if you don't like your handwriting, or maybe you've messed up and you misspelled something and you had to cross it out, I think try adding a little piece of tape and let me know if that really helps. And speaking of letting me know, I would love to know what your favorite process is so far, and maybe at the end, once you've seen them all, which is your favorite overall. I'm declaring this year, 2025, to be the year that we use our supplies, that we are no longer hoarding onto things, and that we are finding ways to use things that once brought us joy and maybe we look at in a different light. Maybe they are from 2016. And we are going to kind of breathe new life into them. I'm going to take a package of these journaling cards that I thought I'd probably never use again. I'm going to add some journaling on the top, and this time, instead of covering the journaling, I'm just going to add a strip to the bottom, and it just gives it an artistic flair that now transforms this card from ordinary to extraordinary. And also, I do mean what I wrote here. You do matter so much. You are worthy, you are capable, you are strong, and you are loved unconditionally. The next process we're going to do here works in two different ways. I had forgotten that this journal actually is not bound, and instead I can pull the pages out. Also, if this is a type of journal, so this is a traveler's notebook type of journal, if this is something that you would like to see me make and teach you how to make one for yourself, leave a comment down below and let me know that you're interested in that. But anyways, if I had a journal that maybe had a page that was falling out, or maybe if I was constructing a signature and my pages weren't big enough, so I wanted to join two pages together, this technique works perfectly. What I'm doing here is I'm using the tape to, in this case, I'm just placing it in the center. And so it's just giving me a stylized look, but it could also be functional where, like I said, if you had two different pages or one of your pages is coming undone, which can happen after you've been flipping through it for a while. This is a great way to put it back in and not only fix it, but make it look beautiful. And this technique really reminds me of vintage cookbooks that maybe were falling apart after being loved and used so much and have been glued back together with a piece of scotch tape that has now weathered through the years. I think this is so beautiful, and it's a lovely surprise to find in the center of your journal. And you know that I mean business once my ephemera book comes out. I'm going to grab two pieces of ephemera from Tim Holtz. One is the little paper dolls, and the other one, I believe it's called the passport photos. We are going to take these, and I wouldn't even say these are going up one notch. I think this is like a 10-notch glow up. We are going to add our vintage tape right on top of the photos and instantly, magically transform them into a sepia toned loveliness that is going to be so beautiful in your journal. I would say that if you're going to try one technique from this video, it's this one. But I think I already said that about the last one. I think you should try them all, honestly, but I absolutely love this. I love how when you put down the alcohol inks, they have a kind of marbling effect. And when you lay that down on the photo, you can really see that with a subtleness, but it just adds so much loveliness to the photos. And so, if you are looking for a way to just jazz up your ephemera, this is a great way. And it doesn't just work with photos. This would be great to cover a whole piece of ephemera, like that little label that I had before. Imagine how adorable it would be with the tape on top of it. The hardest part about this technique is that when you're using the paper dolls, you're going to probably have to cut around it. That also brings me to something that I don't think I mentioned earlier in the video, and that was my scissors. The scissors I'm using here are meant for using with tape. I think they're for duct tape. And so, if you can find scissors like that to use, it is better. They don't stick as much, even though you can see through some parts of the video that it does stick. But I also like to use them so that I don't ruin my other scissors. So, that's just a little tip for you to keep in mind. And of course, these photos were already in black and white, so they already gave us that feel of vintage. But now adding the tape on top brings it to a nostalgic level. It brings it to this is very old, it's very treasured, and very loved. I'm not gonna lie, I'm a little melancholy right now because this is our last technique. We are going to anchor some ephemera. And what I mean by that is if you've been on any of my videos, specifically if you've been in Patreon, I talk about this all the time about matting and how I use papers in the background for like clustering or just for layering, and how they really add to the subject. I'm going to do the same thing, except here I'm going to use some tape. So I'm actually going to flank this beautiful ephemera on some tape on both sides, and it's so pretty. It is a just lovely way it almost highlights your subject. It's almost like you are putting a border around it and it is just showcasing the centerpiece. It really is a beautiful way to add a little something when maybe it just doesn't feel like it's balanced, or it feels the colors are off a little bit. This is really great because the tape is, as you can see, somewhat transparent, so you can still see the image on the bottom, but you're adding so much character. As you guys finish watching the process of this, I just wanted to thank you so much for being here with me today, for all of your love and your comments and your support. I appreciate you more than I can ever say in words, and I really do mean that. Whenever I don't post, or like a month ago, I was out because we had so many things going on at home that I really did miss you guys, and I'm happy to be back. I hope that this video has given you inspiration, that maybe it lit a fire under you to go and create something today. Pick one of these techniques that only takes a couple of minutes and make something beautiful. I know that it'll lighten your mood and your spirit, and I thank you so much. If you're not already subscribed, this is a great time to pause the video and go ahead and subscribe now, and make sure you hit the bell so you get notified anytime a new video comes out. That way you never miss out on any of my videos. I hope that you have a blessed day, and until next time, love you. Bye.